Hello and welcome to People Not Politics. We have Gina Montoya Ortega, candidate for Las Cruces mayor, here with us today. This episode is going to be on public safety, and I'm your host, Rusty Pierce. How are you doing today, Gina?
Good, Rusty. How are you?
Good. So as I said, we're going to talk about public safety to begin with, but there's a couple things that happened with your campaign recently, and you got a Facebook post about your signs having the word Democrat on it in this nonpartisan race. So I was wondering if you could give me a little bit of background on that and tell me why you chose to put Democrat on your sign.
Yes, so I ran 4 years ago, and when I ran, I chose not to put Democrat on there just because, I mean, it is a nonpartisan race, and I'm not a politician. I just happen to be registered as a Democrat. So we thought, okay, I'm a Democrat. People are asking, why didn't you put it on your sign the last time you ran? So I put it on my sign now. Well, now, yes, I know it's a nonpartisan race, but I don't have anything to hide. I want people to know that I am a registered Democrat, even though I don't agree with what the Democrats 100%. I don't believe either side. I don't believe the red and or the blue have it 100% accurate. I don't believe either side has a monopoly on it. So that's why I had originally decided it wasn't going to go on my signs, but when people the last time said, you need to have it on your signs.
So it's a common question that you get when you're on the campaign trail is whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican.
Oh, that's the first thing. If I go up to somebody and say, hey, I'm Gina, I'm running for mayor, and many people, the first thing they'll ask is, what's your party affiliation? And I didn't come to realize until after the fact, I didn't even know what that even meant. I mean, I knew what it meant, but to some people it's obvious, important that are you a Democrat or are you Republican? And because I'm not the politicians, it's not important. What's important is to do the right thing. It's about people. It's about servicing people. When I become the mayor of Las Cruces, I'm going to have to represent the Reds just like I do the Blues, and the Blues just like I do the Reds. Nobody should have favoritism in this election.
And that's a good segue to our next topic, which is going to be on public safety. If you ever have to call for a police officer or a sheriff, you never say, I want a Republican, I want a Democrat to show up. Whoever shows up first, you're glad to take in that case. So I noticed on your website you have community policing as one of your public safety key points there. What does community policing mean to you?
So community policing is actually the police officer having more say-so in his area or his district. Obviously, that police officer knows. He works that area more than his supervisor would, or maybe another police officer from another district. So community policing to me is actually the police officer having more say-so on what they see in their district. We're all different. Maybe in mine, which I'm in District 1, it's definitely going to be different than the issues that they're having in District 2, 3, 4. So community policing to me is actually giving the police officer in that district more of say-so or get input more for them on what they feel that they need. Also, to me, community policing is, we had a bakery. And it would have been nice that, I don't expect the police officer to show up every day. But if he just happens to be passing by the bakery, whether it was once a week, twice a week, once a month, something, just making his presence known. Walk in, hey, Gina, hey, Ray, how's it going? And then at this time, I think at the same time, it's going to give people, my customers, who a lot of them, they have nothing to hide from the police. They see a police officer, hey, they greet them. There's other customers of ours that they see a police officer and they're heading the other way. And not even for any reason. It's not even that they had done anything wrong. It's just they just don't have that confidence that I believe a police officer and the public should have. So I believe that community policing, if the police officer were just happening coming by the bakery, like I said, once a month, or any other business, Save Mart, sure. Bravo Chevrolet, wherever they happen to be going by, stop into those Pickwicks, say, hey, how's it going? Talk to people, and I think that'll ease up more the customers feeling more comfortable with a police officer's presence. Because unfortunately, when we see a police officer, it's not a good thing. It's, they got called, something happened, so they come on a bad situation. Whereas if they just, community police to me is when you pop your head in and just say hello. It's like, people at the beginning might be kind of like, what's he doing here? What's she doing here? Whereas, it's like, hey, it's more confidence. It's instilling that trust back in the police officers to get to know my customers or customers from another store, or vice versa for the customers. So when they see police officer, they're more at ease. We don't have hopefully the tension that a lot of places are experiencing with police brutality and public, not feeling safe. And these are the people that we're going to depend on to protect us.
So I think you hit on a key point, and that a lot of people feel like there's a distrust between the police officers and the public. So you mentioned that you wanted to have them stop by on a regular basis, doesn't have to be every day, but to show you that they're there and that they support you. what age should we start instilling that trust? Should we have officers in schools at the elementary level? Should they be armed? I know we have school resource officers now at the middle school levels and the high school levels, I believe. So would that be something as mayor that you would further support? Would you expand it to the younger generation or not?
Yeah, so in working, once again, I mean, every police officer from that, once again, community policing, they're going to know the kids in that area. So they're going to have more of an insight. So definitely working with the chief of police and the police officers in the different areas and hear what their input is. A lot of police officers might want to be doing that, even at the elementary school level, making their presence known. You know, we've seen a lot of those wonderful videos that where a police officer, you know, not in Las Cruces, but other parts of the United States, will happen to be passing by and there's kids out there playing baseball or soccer or basketball. And the police officer gets off of his car and walks over to these kids, and these kids just surround them because every kid growing up wants to be a police officer. My granddaughter was in kindergarten last year, and it was so hilarious. There's like 26 kids in her class. And when they asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I guarantee you like about 3/4 of the kids wanted to be police officers. You know, so that's every kid's dream. So this might be, I mean, our police officers are homegrown. These are kids that come from here. So of these 26 kids, more than 3/4 of them that wanted to be a police officer, when they actually get to know the police officer, that might encourage them more that I definitely want to be a police officer because they have interaction with them.
So let's take another subject that's sometimes a little touchy, but I think we need to go over it, and that's Stone Garden funding.
Yes.
I know that the county has recently accepted, not recently, but fairly recently, has accepted Stone Garden money. They have for a number of years. So has the Las Cruces Police Department. However, they have, and they did just refuse that funding for Stone Garden. So tell me a little bit about what your understanding of Stone Garden is and whether you would or would not support taking that money as a city.
So yeah, so the first time that I heard about Stone Garden, it was when the county had voted on it the first time, which must have been last year, because I think it's a yearly thing that they agree on. And when I had heard about it, well, when we heard that it was money that was being to racially profile people, I don't agree with that. We can't stop somebody because of their color of their skin or what we see on the outside. So when I first heard of that, I was totally against Stone Garden money. Now coming to hear about it more, and I spoke out about it at the county commission meeting, and I also went to city council and I spoke out against it because to me that was blood money. Now learning more, this is actually money that can be utilized for humanitarian aid. So if this, and it's against the law. It is against the law for you to racially profile somebody and pull them over because just the color of their skin or just because you feel like it. You have to have reasonable cause or just cause to pull a person over. So obviously we know that that Stone Garden money is not going to be used for racially profiling because it is against the law. It's against a state law. So why wouldn't we take this Stone Garden money that can be used for humanitarian aid? So now that we know a little bit more about it, I think that the city turned it down. When this is money that we can use for humanitarian aid, and it's not going to be used for racially profiling people, why would we have not taken that money? And like I said, I spoke out against it at the county commission meeting. I spoke out at city council. And now it's different. It's different just from what we're learning. I think it's like everything else. If you're not educated on it, your first defense, especially if you're a person of color like myself, a minority, and they're like, well, this is what's going to happen with the money. Well, I'm ready to defend it. How can you do that? That could be me that you're going to racially profile. Now that we know a little bit more about it, that we're getting more information on it, it's a little bit different. So yeah, so if the police officers can use it, that's more money that the police can use for humanitarian aid. As a city can use it, humanitarian aid, it's money we should have probably taken.
And what about drug interdiction? I know that's one of the big things with Stone Garden is that they claim that they are, stopping drugs coming across the border. We have border checkpoints that have just reopened again. Where are you on the border patrol checkpoints? And
so when I was going to run for mayor, we actually put a Facebook page out just to hear what people have to say. Like I said, I want to be the mayor that wants to hear what people have to say. I want to give people back their voice. Currently, like I said, I don't feel that the 7 people that we have right now in our city government, they don't listen to us, the people. Our voices go on deaf ears. So I want to be that mayor that hears what people have to say. So a good start was, now that the borders were closed, we were curious what the public thought. So we started throwing feelers out there with different questions, and one of them was, how do you feel about the borders being closed? Well, on the survey, I believe that we had like maybe 2% of people that were opposed to the borders actually being open, and there was 98% of the people that responded to that question that they wanted the borders open. So, I mean, if this is what people want, and it was really strange because right about that time too that the borders were closed, we had 7 murders in Las Cruces since January. I'm born and raised in Las Cruces. The only incident that I can remember that was created a lot of fear was the bowling alley murders back in the 80s. But people were afraid, but not like they are today. It's a different kind of afraid. So yeah, definitely the survey did show that people felt more comfortable knowing that their border patrol check stations were open.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, in the past you did not support taking money from Stone Garden.
Yes.
After doing a little bit of research, talking to the sheriff and others, you found out that it's illegal to racially profile somebody, so no matter where the money comes from, whether it's Stone Garden or anywhere else, if they do racial profiling, that's illegal. So drug interdiction, border patrol checkpoints, stuff like that is something that you're now in favor of, and you would be in favor of taking that money. Is that
yes.
right? Excellent. Unless
somebody could come and show otherwise, that this is what's happening with this money, but as far as we know, it is money that cannot be used for reasons that we thought it was originally being used for.
So we've got a lot of immigrants that are coming in that get dropped off in different places in Las Cruces. We've been using the Telshore Fund, if I'm not mistaken, to fund some of those. We've gotten reimbursed as a city for a number of those. Would you support writing grants for humanitarian aid, other grants other than Stone Garden, so that we wouldn't have to use the Telshore Fund, or would you continue to dip into the Telshore Fund?
Well, so no, definitely. If there's grants out there, why wouldn't we be utilizing them? I mean, if they're there for a reason, and if there's strings attached, we need to see what those strings are. And if it's strings that just is totally against all morals of people, then that's money that we probably don't want to touch. But I would think that more than likely there aren't strings that are attached that we think. It's just, once again, educating ourselves on what are the conditions that come with this money. So I think, yes, as a city, we need to utilize and look at all the funding that is available to us. And if it's something that can help the city, why are we tapping into resources that we don't need to? It's like we're trying to reinvent the wheel. The money's there somewhere, and why aren't we utilizing it? And we didn't get reimbursed for everything as far as the immigrants up to date that I know of. I know that they were looking, and we were supposed to expect to get reimbursement, but as far as I know, we have not been reimbursed 100%.
And because we have not been reimbursed 100%, does that mean that you are not in support of giving any more money, or would you continue to give money? I'm trying to find out the humanitarian portion here. Just because we can't get a grant for humanitarian aid, does that mean we shouldn't provide it?
Well, no, these are people, and I mean the Bible even tells us, that we have to help the immigrant, we have to feed the immigrant. But once again, I mean, I believe the city, we jumped the gun. We didn't do all the research on what we could have done to actually get the resources that we did. So we reacted, and it was a poor decision, the way that we reacted, because there were other options. So once again, I couldn't tell you all the options that were available because I don't have insight. I'm not on the inside, and everything seems to be very secretive. So no, we definitely need to help people. I mean, the people who are first taking care of these people were the churches. And so I know that City Council had originally agreed to and voted on $75,000 would help to be reimbursed the churches that had already spent a significant amount of money to help the immigrants. Personally, my husband and myself, we donated probably over $1,000. Some of it we baked bread. Others I went and bought shoes. We went and bought shoes. We bought lip balm. We bought backpacks. My Bible tells me that we've got to help these people. And so, whether or not somebody wants to, that's a choice that people can make on an individual basis. And we chose that that's what we had to do.
Excellent. Well, we've got more coming up here in just after a short break. More on public safety. We'll be talking about age and education of our officers.
So great, you do all these different gears in the clan.
Okay.
Nice.
Some of the guys, not all. Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
Hello and welcome back to People Not Politics. This is the episode on public safety, and we're here with Gina Montoya Ortega, a candidate for Las Cruces mayor. So before we left, we started talking about community policing. We talked a little bit about Stone Garden. We also talked about taking humanitarian aid and grants. So let's talk a little bit about the age of our officers and the education of our officers. My understanding is that you can be 18 to join the police force. I believe it is a little bit older for the sheriff's department. Would you support allowing an 18-year-old out on the street with a badge and a gun?
Well, so yes, like I said, we had talked about before, our police officers are homegrown. They're usually kids that do come from Las Cruces. They usually don't come from California, Texas, Arizona to be a police officer. They're homegrown. 18 is a young age for a police officer, and I think a lot of people do have an issue with, you have an incident and this 18-year-old kid, and most 18-year-old, I shouldn't say kids, 18-year-old young men and or women, they look even younger than 18 years of age. So they don't have a whole lot of experience in life in general, but yet they're going to walk into a domestic situation and they're going to solve the problems, right, which a lot of people do have conflict with or object to this. I believe that a police officer probably should be a little bit older, especially as a mother. I knew my son at 18 years of age. He was not that he was any better or any worse than the other kid. He was your average kid. However, he had a pretty good head on his shoulders. He was smart enough to get into the Air Force Academy. And so just that in itself, that tells you a little bit on where his brain is coming from and how he thinks and the things that he does. But still, as a person, as a mother, didn't really see him probably mature until I would say probably about 23 years of age. Because when he went out to the Air Force Academy, and he would come home usually once a year for Christmas break, or maybe even sometimes over the summer for a little bit. And probably was about 23 years of age, 22, 23 years of age, that I saw this is not a little boy anymore or a very young man. This is an adult. And so when I look at, compare my kids to other people's children, because yes, some are a little bit more advanced, some are a little bit not so advanced, but on the average, I would say my son was average, but even the way that he thought and the way that he behaved was probably a little bit above average. So to be in all fair, probably an average of all young men, or maybe even young women, of course, unfortunately they say that we do mature a little bit faster compared to men. But still 18 is a young age. So what I would hope to see is, this humanitarian aid money that we had spoken about earlier, and I'd spoken to some parents that had children. They weren't even children, they're adults that are police officers, and they felt like they could use more training. So we could use those resources. It would be nice if our police officers could be educated, get a little bit of experience in life. However, if they're going to be a police officer at the age of 18, let's get them all the training that they possibly need. Let's put them in situations, trainings, dealing with, a mental patient, a mental illness patient.
So let's stop there for a second. I know that I was just reading over the Sheriff's Department, the job description of the major, and it currently requires a bachelor's degree, and they even prefer a master's in criminal psychology or any of the other law enforcement backgrounds. So if they join at 18, would you like them to go to college as well? Would you like them to get extra training in mental illness?
Yes. So yeah, definitely a degree. Everybody wants a degree just because it gives you more insight to the world. So a degree would be nice. But if not, okay, so we have these young men and women, and we're very grateful that they want to protect and serve the people that they live with. Let's get them all the training that we possibly can. It would be nice to get them educated and get them focused on to getting a degree of some sort. But if not, let's focus on getting them all the training that we can in every situation possible.
So I spoke with a representative from the National Association of Mental Illness, and one of the things that I found that I took away from that, he said, when an officer is called, it's never on a good day. So meaning if it's a mentally ill person and they're making a phone call to the police, it's never on one of their good days. They're always having a bad day when they're calling the police. So I also saw a Facebook video of a gentleman who wanted to commit suicide via cop. And the cop didn't pull his gun out. He had all sorts of training, and he utilized that training. What kind of training do you think would help in Las Cruces that we maybe don't have or that we could use more of today?
Definitely probably the mental health. There are a lot of cases, and it's really strange. When I grew up, mental health to me was something that somebody was probably born with, issues that they had, there were genetics. Unfortunately, what I see, and by no means I don't have a PhD, but I have common sense, and common sense to me kind of sees that a lot of the problems that we're seeing that kids are having nowadays, to me, they're not mental illness. They're type of a PTSD type syndrome. They come from broken homes, poverty. This creates a lot of things for kids that makes their lives difficult. So to me, these kids are not having mental illness. To me, it's more of a PTSD type syndrome, where it's basically their environment has given them this illness that they're having within their heads. So I think that would probably be one of the things that, especially because Las Cruces of poverty that we're in, I think we're seeing a lot more of that. And I think we're seeing a lot more people that are in distress that they can't find a way out. So I think that's probably one of the big trainings that people do need, especially because we don't even have a mental health facility here. The trauma center that supposedly the county had, and I know they're in the works now of trying to get this open. So obviously there's a need. So we'd need to, I think that's probably one of the number one areas. But once again, like I said, talking with the chief of police, talking with the people in the police department, they would know what they need. And I would be the mayor that would want to give that police department every option or every opportunity that we can to help them get what they need, because they're out there dealing with these people on a daily basis.
So what do jobs have to do with public safety and security? If our kids have something to do after they get out of school or when they're young adults, are they more likely to be into crime?
No, so obviously poverty and crime go hand in hand. If you don't have a job, so more than likely you're going to fall under the poverty level. And so now you're going to have probably lean towards doing things that are not on the legal side. So definitely we need to have those jobs, because jobs and poverty and crime are all linked together.
And how do we bring those jobs to Las Cruces? We
need to be a business-friendly city. Like I've said many, many times, we are not a business-friendly city. We need to do whatever it is possible to help a business come to Las Cruces and open the door. Like I said, when we opened our bakery, it took us almost 2 years. Businesses don't have 2 years to come in. I know there's a lot of things that need to be done, but not a lot of the red tape that the city makes us go through. So we need to do whatever it is in the city to help these businesses get their doors open, because the more businesses that we have, that's going to be more jobs, and that, I believe, that's going to take away a lot of the crime. That's going to take away a lot of the crime that we are experiencing.
And so, if I'm not mistaken, you hired some of the younger crowd at your bakery as well, correct?
Yes. Most of the people that we had there working, we had one full-time employee, and he was an older man, but yet the rest of them were all college kids. And that's why we had to have a larger group. We had 5 college kids that worked for us at one time. Because of their school schedules, we had to plug one here, and then that one had to go to class, and we had to bring the other one and plug them in there. So yes, we had a lot of all of our employees were college-age kids, with the exception of our one donut fryer that we had.
Awesome. So we talked a little bit about the age and the education. Are there any other trainings that you think the officers should have other than a mental illness training? Perhaps like de-escalation techniques or anything like that? Yeah,
so definitely any kind of training that they would possibly, I'm sure there's tons of training that can be given. So once again, I'm working with the police department, and all the police officers that have been there, ask them, what do you feel? I mean, ask an 18-year-old police officer, when you show up to a situation, what happened? What did you feel? What do you think might have helped? Because I think these are the trainings that we'll need to see that our police officers need to be given.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about community policing. We talked about funding for Stone Garden, funding for Humanitarian Aid, also a little about the age and education of our officers. We've talked a little bit about politics as well, Democrat on the sign. as well as jobs and how those affect public safety. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about quickly before we wrap up?
No, I just would like people to, once again, this is a nonpartisan race. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat and or Republican. We need to leave our colors at the door, just like we tell gang members all the time. It's not about whether you're red or you're blue. It's about being the public servant, to actually want to serve the people that you have been elected to serve. It's about doing what's right. And for me to say that the Reds have it all right or the Blues have it all right, I don't believe either one of us have it 100% accurately. I think it's going to take both of us to come together and bring all that energy that we have, whether it's negative or positive, and let's start talking. Let's start talking on what we can do together to move this city forward.
All right, so we want to make this city safer. That's one of your top platforms, and I know next time we'll be talking about other parts of your platform. So thank you for watching today, People Not Politics with Gina Montoya Ortega. Have a great afternoon.
Gina Ortega, and I approve this message. Vivian Fritz, Treasurer.